Sometimes it's just one simple, off-the-cuff remark that can light a fire. Well, back in 1985, a music legend did exactly that, and that fire has been burning for 4 decades. Now, he's coming back. So let's break down how one single moment sparked an entire movement. Today, we're going to unpack the incredible 40-year story of Farm Aid, a movement that all kicks off with a rock star's totally unexpected return to the spotlight. So, what's the big news? What's the deal that's bringing this 40-year story right back to the front page? Well, get this. The man who started it all, Bob Dylan, is officially returning to the Farm Aid stage for its 40th anniversary. And in a perfect bit of poetry, it's all happening in his home state of Minnesota. But see, this isn't just another name on the poster. It is a deeply symbolic, full-circle moment. To really get why, we've got to go all the way back to the very beginning, to the one remark that got this whole thing started. To find the origin of Farm Aid, you might think you'd start on a farm. But nope, you'd actually find it at one of the biggest music events in history. Okay, picture this. It's July 13th, 1985. The entire world is tuned into Live Aid. It's this massive benefit concert broadcast everywhere to raise money for famine relief in Ethiopia. You've got absolute superstars taking the stage in both London and Philadelphia. And then Bob Dylan steps up to the microphone. In between songs, he says something nobody was expecting. While the whole concert's focus was global, Dylan, just for a second, turned the spotlight back home, onto a crisis that was unfolding in America's own heartland. Now, the remark was a little controversial at the time, but for a few other musicians watching, it was like a lightning bolt. And who were those musicians? None other than Willie Nelson, John Mellencamp, and Neil Young. Dylan's words hit them hard. They basically said, he's right, somebody needs to do something. They realized that while the world was rightly focused on a crisis overseas, there was another one at home that desperately needed a spotlight, a voice, and a whole lot of help. So what was this crisis Dylan was talking about? Why did his words hit such a nerve? Well, to put it bluntly, in the mid-1980s, American farmers were in deep, deep trouble. It wasn't just one thing. It was a total perfect storm of economic factors. In the 70s, farmers were encouraged to expand, to take on debt, but then, as you can see here, a whole series of shocks, oil embargoes, grain embargoes, tightened money policies, sent the entire agricultural economy into a nosedive. And look at this chart. It shows you just how brutal it got. Prime interest rates went through the roof, climbing past 20%. Can you imagine taking out a loan when things were good, only to see the cost of that debt become completely unmanageable? That was the reality for thousands of farmers. The deck was just completely stacked against them. The money they were getting for their crops was dropping, the value of their land, their biggest asset, was collapsing, and the banks were calling in their loans. The result? A devastating wave of foreclosures that just ripped through rural America, destroying livelihoods that had been in families for generations. So, in the middle of this crisis, Willie Nelson, John Mellencamp, and Neil Young decided to act. And man, they acted fast. What they created would become so much more than just a single concert. Just 2 months after Live Aid, the very first Farm Aid concert was held in Illinois. And check out this lineup. It was a who's who of music royalty, all coming together for this new cause. We're talking Billy Joel, B.B. King, Loretta Lynn, Tom Petty, and of course, Bob Dylan, the guy who sparked it all, was right there on stage. The impact was immediate and huge. Over $9 million raised in a single night. It was a powerful statement, but the founders knew right away that this problem wasn't going to be solved with one show. It was going to take a movement. And this shows how they evolved. Farm Aid went from a concert to a year-round mission. They started providing immediate relief to farmers in crisis with hotlines and resources, but they also fought for long-term systemic change, funding local groups and pushing for fair policies in Washington. And the whole thing is powered by that annual festival, which is really just a big celebration of the very people they're fighting for. And all that work, it has really added up. From that first $9 million, Farm Aid has now raised over $85 million. That's a testament to 4 decades of just unwavering support for America's family farmers. So here's the crucial point. This isn't just a history lesson. The reason Farm Aid is turning 40 and the reason Bob Dylan is coming back is because the fight for the family farm is far from over. The battlefield has definitely changed, but the fight is still on. Back in the 80s, the crisis was all about high debt and foreclosures. Today, farmers are facing a whole new set of pressures: inflation, the power of massive corporations, rising interest rates again, and the undeniable impacts of climate change. And that fight has a very clear focus right now. Farm Aid and all its partners are heavily invested in shaping the 2025 Farm Bill. This is a massive piece of legislation that basically sets the rules for American agriculture, and they are pushing hard for policies that level the playing field for small and mid-sized family farms. And that brings us right back to that full circle moment. 40 years after a simple remark changed everything, the need for advocacy, for support, and for a loud musical voice is just as strong as it's ever been. It really leaves us with a critical question to think about. As we face a whole new generation of challenges, what's it going to take to make sure that family farms, the backbone of America, survive for the next 40 years?